A young woman found strangled to death.
Her fingernails are broken back to the quick.
Leads detectives on a twisted trail littered with multiple suspects.
It certainly can be frustrating when you have to let someone you believe is a killer walk out the front door.
To solve this case, Detective Kenda must go digging 6 feet under.
We have to take a different step, and it's one we don't like to take.
April 7th, 1987, Fairview Cemetery, Colorado Springs, Colorado. It's a warm spring day in a quiet cemetery. The caretaker notices a car parked at the edge of the property. He's seen the same car in the same spot for 4 days. He decides no one's coming back for the vehicle, so he calls the police to report it abandoned.
The patrol officer looks inside the car. He looks through the side window and sees something covered with a blanket.
That something is definitely not what he was expecting.
He sees a foot sticking from underneath the blanket.
A closer look reveals the bruised body of a young woman.
The body of the deceased had some signs of trauma, yet the evidence in the car did not indicate any sign of struggle within the car. So it was apparent to us that the death was caused somewhere else. And then the body was essentially placed into the vehicle and then transported to this location.
The county coroner determines the cause of death to be anything but natural.
She has abrasions of her neck, consistent with manual strangulation. She also has some abrasions that are consistent with her fighting off the perpetrator. This is common in manual strangulations. As the perpetrator puts their hands around the neck, the victim reaches up and grabs and scratches at their hands and scratches at her own neck to try to relieve the pressure. And that's what was seen in this case.
The case is ruled a homicide, and Lieutenant Joe Kenda takes over the investigation. The veteran detective has solved hundreds of cases, but this promises to be one of his most challenging.
This is an 18 to 20-year-old girl. She's a kid. Her life is just getting started and it's over. Violently. Sad stuff. We're in a sad business.
To Kenda, where the body is discovered is always revealing.
When you look at a crime scene, I'm most interested in how did our killer behave? What did he do? What did he do to kill the victim? What did he do before he killed the victim? Maybe what he did after. Those kinds of things speak to motivation. You want to let the facts drive the theory.
In this case, the car may hold valuable clues.
Whose car is this? Somebody drives it here. You have to assume our killer does. He's killed this person. Now he needs to get rid of them, along with this car. We have to assume the killer drove this car and parked it here to conceal the car and the body. The question is, did he leave behind any traces? The area where this car is found containing the victim is not commonly used by anyone for any purpose. It is just part of the cemetery property. Patrol officers that work that neighborhood don't recall ever having a call in that area regarding a disturbance or drinking or group parties where this car is located.
Investigators turn to the one man who may have seen something unusual.
We interview the caretaker who originally called it in. The caretaker is convinced that the car has been there for at least 4, maybe 5 days. The likelihood is great that this girl's been dead for some period of time.
Forensic investigators take latent prints from inside the car. Everything they find is smudged or partial. They do, however, find something else.
When we first looked at the blanket, there was hair on the blanket. It was very coarse, and I thought it might be dog hair. Human hair is relatively fine. This is very thick hair, so we wanted to collect that hair off that blanket and any other evidence that could be found.
In addition to the hair, police spot something on the dashboard.
One of the items the forensics investigators took out of the car was a piece of paper on the dash with the name Lisa and a phone number.
A run on the license plate shows that the car is registered to a 20-year-old woman named Vicki Lee Ross.
And my first thought was, okay, now we know who we're dealing with. It's probably her in the backseat of her own car.
A records check confirms Kenda's suspicions, but the question remains, was Vicki Ross killed here or somewhere else?
Vicki lived 35 blocks or so from where she was found. So she's not parked in her neighborhood. What is she doing there? Why is Vicki 35 blocks from home?
To answer that, Kenda turns to the victim's family. He learns that Vicki had been reported missing the day before.
The parents told us she was working in a supermarket at night. She was trying to save money. She wanted to buy a better car, but she never came home from work.
It's kind of like it was surreal. There's so much of that I think I don't remember just because it was just such a horrible shock.
I don't think they mentioned where she was. They just told me that, or told us that she had been murdered, and it's devastating.
Vicki's family says that the last time anyone saw her was as she was leaving her job at a local supermarket. Vicki had planned to meet her grandparents for dinner, but never showed up at their house. And that's when they called the police.
She loved her grandma and grandpa, that would be my parents, and liked spending time with them. She just was a joy, an absolute joy. And I miss her so much.
The news disturbs Lieutenant Kenda. Why didn't she call her grandparents to check in?
We had to wonder if the reason she never called anyone is because she never felt threatened. Maybe that's because she left work with someone she knew.
Playing a hunch, Kenda asks Vicki's family about the blanket found wrapped around Vicki.
We recognized early on that the blanket that she was wrapped in was a key piece of evidence, and one of the things that we needed to determine from the family is whether or not it was her blanket or not.
Vicki's family is adamant that she doesn't own a brown blanket.
No one could identify this blanket as having come from Vicki. It was clear that this blanket could be one link to the killer.
We felt that that was a key link. If we could find the source of that blanket, that would bring us closer to perhaps where she was killed.
But for right now, the blanket remains a mystery. The next day, an autopsy finds some surprising evidence that adds another twist to this investigation.
Autopsy of the body reveals tearing or breaking of the fingernails, consistent with the struggle that would happen near death, resulting in them breaking.
Her fingernails are broken back to the quick on a couple of her fingers. The coroner thought that a struggle had taken place in which Vicki probably broke her fingernails off on her attacker, trying to defend herself, and then was strangled.
The evidence suggests that the suspect will most likely have scratch marks somewhere on their body.
He also finds her pubic hair to be shaved quite recently, with swirling marks in the flesh, indicating to him the work was performed with an electric razor.
Autopsy revealed that the pubic hair of Vicki Ross had been crudely shaved, indicating that it likely wasn't her that did it.
The coroner estimates the time of death as sometime after 9 p.m. on April 2nd.
We have a very tight timeline of when the death took place. We have to determine where was Vicki Ross from 9 o'clock in the evening to the early morning hours of April 3rd. Somewhere in that span of 6 or 7 hours, somebody killed her. Our killer has a head start. I never like it when they have a head start.
When 20-year-old Vicki Ross is found murdered in the backseat of her car, the news devastates her friends and family.
Vicki was a very good friend, very easygoing, very well-spoken, beautiful young lady at the time. Got along with most of the people that she had met. There was a dark time with Vicki, unfortunately. A couple years prior to her demise, there was a couple of friends of ours that we were all very close to that had died in a massive car accident. And at that point forward, she had kind of fallen into a point of a little dark space, kind of withdrawn from some people.
And with that darkness came drugs. Friends tell police Vicki was a recovering addict.
They all describe her as a wonderful person who managed to kick the drugs, who is a happy person, who is a hard worker, working 2 jobs to better herself, who has plans for the future.
Well, we did become aware of some of the wrong decisions that she had made, but we were so proud of her because she had worked hard to get out of that.
It looked like there was a turning point there. It looked like you could see it, that things are going to work out for her pretty good, but it didn't work out. She wasn't even 21 when she was murdered.
Vicki's past is now in play. Could she have been mixed up with the wrong crowd?
Following Vicki's death, there was rumors going around the west side of Colorado Springs where we grew up that it may have been an abduction, and it had all been speculation. My feelings on it were that it was the possibility of a bad boyfriend relationship, where either that or somebody that she knew that had abducted her.
And it's not long before a new name emerges. Vicki's old boyfriend, Hyun.
They believed that Jan slapped her around on more than one occasion. They disapproved of him. He was her boyfriend during her drug life and has remained her boyfriend after rehab. They couldn't say enough bad things about Jan. That immediately got my attention.
And so he became initially one of our suspects, but at that point we really didn't have any kind of physical evidence to link him to her death.
Investigators bring Hyun in for questioning.
He has an extremely bad attitude. He hates us. He doesn't mind telling us that. He says he has nothing to do with Vicki's death. He says he knows her, he dates her. Sometimes he gets mad at her. Sometimes she won't do what he wants, but he had nothing to do with killing her.
Hyun says he was working all night at a local restaurant on the evening of Vicki's disappearance.
Since there was some unusual sexual activity, such as the shaving of the pubic hairs, that caused us to begin to look into the background of any potential suspects.
But I do ask him one thing. Does Vicki Ross shave her pubic hair? And that's probably the one time he looked like he was giving me an honest answer. And he said, no, she doesn't do that. In fact, she doesn't even shave her legs half the time. And I've asked her to shave her legs, but she doesn't shave her pubic hair. And that came across as very honest.
Hyun says that Vicki had been hanging out with friends from her drug-fueled past, and that any number of them may have been the killer.
Jan provided us with what we expected, a list of first names and nicknames of every idiot that he knew ever been associated with Vicki Ross. There's this guy and that guy, all first names, nobody identified, who believed Vicki owed them $20. In the drug world, these people are so confused because their brain is so fried on this crap. They can't remember who owes them money. They can't remember who took drugs from them, or even if anybody did.
While Hyun is being questioned, other detectives check out his alibi.
We do contact the boss and the 5 co-workers. Jan never left the building. He was in there with all of them, laying towel on the floor, from 8 o'clock the evening of the 2nd until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd. So as much as I liked Jan has no opportunity to commit this crime. So you suffer the other part of this work, and that's frustration. Jan looks so good, and now can't be him.
Hyun is released from custody, but he has provided a list of names from Vicki's past. Most seem to be immersed in the seedy street life and drug culture of Colorado Springs.
It was not a good sign for me that Vicki was still associating with people that she had associated with when she was into drugs. It's a fatal combination.
Someone once said conspiracies born in hell rarely have angels as witnesses. When you have these individuals as significant witnesses as to events surrounding the time of death, you always have the problem that because of their drug usage, there may be some problem with their perception, their memory, and their motive in telling you what they need to tell you, and also how forthcoming they are. Some people don't want to reveal their own personal problems to detectives.
The investigators involved in this case, we had to spend a lot of time building some trust in her friends to say, if you can be forthright with us, we are not going to look at prosecuting drug charges based on these conversations.
Several of Vicki's friends single out an acquaintance of hers as a possible suspect. A black male in his late 20s or early 30s with short hair. His name is Dave.
Dave has been threatening Vicki to friends. He says that Vicki owes him $10. And if she doesn't pay him, he's going to kill her. It's a new name. It's a new player. Let's see what Dave has to say for himself.
The problem is no one knows where Dave is, and all police have is a vague description. Until a chance call takes the investigation in a new direction.
While we were still interviewing all these characters, the detectives kept calling the phone number found on the piece of paper on Vicki's dashboard. They kept calling and calling. That's what good detectives do.
Finally, they get a break. A woman answers and gives police their first solid lead.
The caller says she's seen Vicki just hours before her murder at the grocery store, and she was with a black male. She said Vicki told her she was going to a party. I get the feeling, just a feeling, that I'm getting closer to my killer.
10 days after Vicki Ross is found dead in the backseat of her car, detectives finally contact Lisa, the woman whose name and phone number were found on the dashboard of Vicki's car.
She explains she's an old friend of Vicki's, known her a long time. Lisa says that she sees Vicki the night of April 2nd. It's just about closing time at the grocery store. Vicki tells Lisa she's going to a party, and Lisa also says that Vicki leaves the parking lot with a black male.
Lisa doesn't know the man, but his description matches that of Dave, the mysterious person mentioned by Vicki's friends.
We already had information that Vicki was supposed to go to her grandfather's house. But then we learned that she didn't go to her grandfather's house. She went to a party. I'm starting to really like this. Now we're out of the confused drug group memory problem. We have a narrow time frame for her death, and we're starting to eat into it. And now I'm feeling good. We're starting to discover where she was for the time frame and who she was with. And that's going to give us our killer.
Kenda tracks down Dave to his apartment through a phone number provided by Lisa.
Talking to Dave raises a number of red flags. He's the same paranoid, angry guy Hune is. According to the information we had, Dave was the last person with Vicki when she was alive. Could he be the guy? Of course he could. Does he have the personality? Absolutely.
Dave tells investigators that Vicki dropped him off at home before she went to the party.
We speak to the host of the party. She says she knows Vicki, and she knows all of Vicki's friends. She tells us she did have a party on the night that Vicki died, and that Vicki came to that party. We asked her, was she with a black male? She says, no, there were no black males at the party. How long was Vicki here at this party? Oh, they were here for an hour or two, probably. More time away from our time frame. I like that too. Okay. Did Vicki leave with anybody? Well, yeah, she left with Norman. So tell me about Norman. Well, he's a guy in his 30s, and he has dated Vicki before. So Norman and her leave this party. What time do you think they left? Oh, it was about 10:30 or 11. Now we're down to 5 hours, and she's with Norman. He's with our victim during the time frame of her death.
Norman's full name is Norman Weaggan. A background check reveals a disturbing past.
Norman has an extensive criminal history, and he's been in the penitentiary in Louisiana. His history is unique. It is all sexual assaults on females. Some of them were dismissed. Some of them he was found not guilty, but a couple of them he got tagged for. He did 4 years in Louisiana State Penitentiary. Now Norman has my undivided attention.
The next step for us was to dig deeper into his background. We spent 8 days in New Orleans investigating his background, contacting 2 ex-wives and some victims of sexual assault cases.
The ex-wife says Norman was crazy when he was on cocaine. He was a totally different guy when he was on coke. Out of control nuts.
The investigators also learn from Norman's ex-wife that he has an unusual fetish.
She said she got very, very worried and frightened of Norman because he demanded to shave her pubic hair. And he did it. She didn't like it. And she said she never wanted him to do that again.
Vicki's murder is a puzzle, but the pieces are starting to fall into place. But before making contact with Norman, detectives question his current girlfriend. Maybe she knows more about Norman's whereabouts night of the murder.
We're talking with her, so what's going on? Were you at the party? No, I wasn't at the party, but I went over to Norman's place the next day, the 3rd, yes. Norman said he had to clean his apartment. And I thought that was really strange. Why did you think that was strange? Well, his place is a dump. He never empties the trash. But all of a sudden, he's all upset and he wants to clean the apartment.
The suspect's girlfriend also told detectives that she had noticed blood on one of Weaggan's sheets. He had also gone down to do laundry that morning, and he explained to her that his dog was in heat, and that was the source of the blood. Again, the fact that he was doing his laundry was something clearly out of character, and that also raised a red flag.
Police suspect that Vicki was killed somewhere other than the cemetery. Could it have been at Norman's apartment?
It makes perfect sense to me that Norman's trying to clean up. I am convinced Norman is my guy. Norman is trying to clean up a crime scene.
In the course of that conversation, she indicated that the evening after that Thursday night that he wasn't there, he did come over, and when they went to bed that night, he undressed down to everything but his t-shirt. And she indicated that his normal practice was to sleep without any clothes on, but this night he kept his t-shirt on. And during the course of the evening, at one point, she did pull up his shirt and did observe a scratch on his midsection.
Vicki Ross was found with broken fingernails. Could she have broken them scratching Norman's back?
I always look for things that mean something to me, that help me make sense of things. And I said, Teresa, I have one more question. Have you ever seen Norman shave? Yes, I've seen Norman shave. How does Norman shave? He uses an electric razor. The coroner said during the autopsy, in his opinion, Vicki's pubic hair was shaved with an electric razor. Now I know Norman uses one. I am very happy at this moment.
Based on what the detectives had developed, we felt there was sufficient evidence to ask a judge to issue a search warrant for Norman Weaggan's apartment.
My instructions are to my people that we're going to conduct a complete and thorough search. I'm hoping we find something that Norman might have overlooked or might have not seen. We start in the bedroom. We think that's our best opportunity. That's where this attack probably took place.
Forensic investigators search the bedroom and immediately turn up something strange.
Detectives found a plastic Ziploc baggie which contained what appeared to be pubic hair. Vicki Ross had been shaved prior to her murder. Luminol was sprayed on some of the walls, which seemed to indicate the presence of blood. Also, interestingly, Norman Weaggan had a waterbed. The waterbed was searched. The blankets on top of the waterbed were searched. The waterbed itself was too heavy to move, so the detectives drained the water out of the waterbed.
We lift the mattress back from the liner and immediately see the fingernail. We all believed it belonged to Vicki Ross. We knew of her habit of painting her nails. We knew what was involved with that.
Detectives find a fingernail similar to Vicki Ross's. But there's just one catch.
The only problem was there was nothing at that point to match it to.
The fingernail and hair are both solid evidence, but useless without a match to the victim. Unfortunately, Vicki is now 6 feet under.
Oh, Norman. Looks like you've been a bad boy. It's time we have a talk.
It's been nearly a week since 20-year-old Vicki Ross was found strangled to death. Based on the recent developments, Kenda brings their primary suspect, Norman Weaggan, to the station.
We advise him of his rights. He waives his rights. Now, when a convict waives his rights, you know up front he's going to lie his ass off. He's not going to give you anything that you can use, or at least he's going to try not to.
Kenda focuses on the night of Vicki's disappearance.
Norman tells us that he goes to Marilyn's house because he got invited to the party Marilyn was having. While he's there, he meets a number of his friends, and Vicki arrives. He knows Vicki, says he talks to her. They're having a friendly conversation. So he gives you what he thinks is meaningless information that in fact does have meaning. He puts himself with our victim, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but he believes that he is. Norman's biggest mistake is, in his plan to avoid giving us something useful, he admits he's at Marilyn's house, he admits he's in contact with Vicki, and then he takes the fatal step. He brings Vicki home.
Kenda can now place Norman with the victim close to the time of her murder.
Norman says that Vicki decides to go with Norman to his apartment so they can watch a movie. We let Norman continue. He says, and what happened then, Norman? Well, we left in her car from the party about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Now our time frame is even narrower, and our victim, Vicki, is inside Norman's apartment at 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning, with our time of death set between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. We only have 2 hours left in our time frame. Vicki said she was tired because she worked 2 shifts that day, and she was going to go home, and she left. Did you see her after that, Norman? No. What did you do after Vicki left? I went to bed.
Having that information, we didn't know if what he was telling us was true and she in fact did leave or not, or if in fact that she stayed there and was actually killed there.
I asked him to raise his shirt. He asked me why, and I said, well, I'm looking to see if you have any scratch marks. And he said, I don't have any. And he stood up. Norman raised his shirt, turned slowly. I saw no marks on his chest or his back.
Fingerprint comparisons also fail to implicate Weaggan. Those collected at the crime scene are too smudged to make a positive ID. Despite the lack of evidence, Detective Kenda is convinced he's talking to the right suspect.
I think Norman's a prolific criminal. and I think he killed this girl. You have Norman sitting there smiling at me, telling me that, hey, I didn't do anything. Prove it. Okay, I will. But you don't want to jump the gun. You don't want to get too anxious. There's ample time here. Let's play our cards right. I want to have more in my possession before I arrest him. Because I don't want any possibility of him walking away from this.
Investigators need proof. They have no choice but to release Weaggan from custody.
They knew that he walked out of the detective bureau and went out to wherever he wanted to go. But they also knew that they were starting to build a case on him.
When you are dealing with this type of situation, it certainly can be frustrating when you have to let someone you believe is a killer walk out the front door of your detective bureau. But you know that if you make an arrest at this point before you have the ability to meet that legal standard, that you jeopardize the case.
Norman has no reaction when we let him go. Norman's friendly like he was when he came in. Norman believes that he's made his story work. I believe that Norman had gotten away with crimes in Louisiana, and I wanted to make sure it wouldn't happen in Colorado.
Kenda is buying time to make his case airtight. He asks forensic investigators to make a comparison between the fingernail found in Norman's bed to those of Vicki Ross. He knows this is the critical piece of evidence that will put Norman away for good.
We start pulling photographs of the autopsy. We can't find a clear photograph of Vicki Ross's fingers to determine what nail this could be or which finger it's from. There's lots of pictures of her hands and lots of pictures of her fingers, but nothing that's working in terms of looking at the fingernail we found in Norman's bed. The only way we can be certain that we can match this torn nail to the hands of Vicki Ross are to look at Vicki Ross's hands. The problem is, Vicki Ross has been buried for over a week. We have to take a different step, and it's one we don't like to take, and one we often try to avoid. We need to exhume Vicki's body.
Doing what it takes is what drives a successful murder investigation, and we knew that exhuming the body, one, would be a sensitive issue, and that we only wanted to do it if we had the support of the family. We are human too, and we have the same emotions, and this isn't something that's done every day. And so it was, I guess I would use the word sort of bizarre to go through those steps.
It's like having your heart torn out. It's like, poor Vicki. I mean, it's like she was being violated again, but it had to be done. We had to get this guy. They had to exhume Vicki to match that torn fingernail to her. And so, of course, permission had to be given, and they had to go through all the legalities of opening the grave. And that was a very difficult thing to go through. But it did the job that it needed to be done.
The stakes in this business are very high, whether they're stated or not. One mistake, one way or another, one lack of attention to something can result in a killer going free, a family being emotionally destroyed, all from just you. It is the ultimate form of high-stakes poker. So we get his workers to open Vicki's grave and bring the casket above ground.
The coroner opens Vicki's coffin. He removes all 10 fingernails, placing each one in a separate container. When he is done, the coroner closes the coffin and reburies Vicki Ross.
The whole time this process is going on, I'm thinking, I sure hope I'm right. I sure hope this is Vicki's fingernail. I know the fate of this investigation rides on this one moment.
It's been just over a week since murder victim Vicki Ross was laid to rest in a local cemetery. Investigators have searched the apartment of ex-convict Norman Weaggan and collected a fractured fingernail from underneath his bed. But in order to charge him with the murder, Detective Kenda must wait for a comparison to be made with those collected from the victim's body during her exhumation. That could take days.
The detectives decided to go back in their investigation. The one piece of evidence they had that tied someone to the crime was that blanket. Because the victim had been found wrapped in a brown blanket, it was important to find out where this brown blanket came from.
One of the pieces of evidence on the blanket was some sort of animal hair. It could have been dog hair. And they knew that the suspect, Norman Weaggan, had a dog. And so they went back to check that out, but it turned out that the hair from his dog did not match the hair on the blanket.
Detectives question Weaggan's neighbors, and one's about to reveal a twisted coincidence.
Mrs. Johnson explains that her and Norman share a common storage area. Mrs. Johnson puts her seasonal items in storage. What do you keep in the storage area? Well, these apartments are small, Mrs. Johnson says. So for seasonal items that she's not going to use during the summer, for example, my electric blanket. The detective immediately keyed on the electric blanket.
Vicki Ross's body was found wrapped up in an electric blanket.
Mrs. Johnson, can you describe this blanket? Mrs. Johnson says, yes, it is brown, and I still have the control unit for it here in the apartment.
She went to a storage area and took detectives with her that she shared in a common area that Norman Weaggan had access to. Her blanket was missing.
For Lieutenant Kenda, everything is starting to come into focus. He recalls that animal hair was collected from the blanket found at the crime scene.
So he asked Mrs. Johnson, do you have a dog? No, I don't have a dog, but I have a cat. Really? And the detective says he'd like to take some hair samples from Muffin, and he will try to do so as painlessly as possible. They get a brush, and they brush some hair out of Muffin. Muffin's not too pleased about this process, but my man is doing his job.
Back at the lab, the serial number on Mrs. Johnson's control unit is compared to the label on the electric blanket collected at the crime scene.
Same manufacturer, matching number. Mrs. Johnson is absolutely correct. That's her blanket. Taken from the common storage area where Norman has access to it. And the last time she saw that blanket, it was in a box. And the last time I saw it, it was wrapped around Vicki Ross.
Forensic investigators compare the hair samples from the cat to those found on the blanket. Again, it's a perfect match. The final nail in Norman Weaggan's coffin comes with the forensic results based on the exhumation.
The lab did make the determination that the striations of the tear matched up, as well as there were 2 layers of fingernail polish that also matched up from each piece, confirming that they were in fact Vicki Ross's.
That is a key piece of lockdown evidence. Part of our victim is still in Norman's bed. Crucial stuff. So now Norman's attitude that we are idiots and we don't know what we're doing, well, we know one thing to do. I can put Vicki Ross in your bed on the night she died.
Lieutenant Kenda is convinced that Vicki went home with Norman after the party.
But sometime during the night, he turned on her. Vicki broke her fingernails trying to defend herself, and Norman strangled her to death. Now Norman has to dispose of her and her car. He takes a blanket from a neighbor's storage locker, wraps Vicki's body in it, puts it in the backseat of her own car, and drives her 2.5 blocks to the cemetery where he abandons the car on the grounds. And he walks home.
With the evidence now directly linking him to Vicki's murder, the police arrest Norman Weaggan and charge him with first-degree murder. Facing life in prison without parole, Weaggan pleads guilty and is sentenced to 46 years in prison.
She's, a vicious criminal who shouldn't even be breathing right now. It just makes me crazy every time I think about it.
After serving only 16 years in prison, Norman Weaggan became eligible for parole. It's possible he could be released from prison as soon as November 2014.
That would really drive me nuts, to knowing that it could happen. It could reach a point here where we just can't do anything to keep him in any longer.
The sad part of this whole thing is that here was Vicki Ross, the young, beautiful woman trying to get her life turned around. She was on the right path when she crosses paths with somebody like Norman Weaggan.
The things that he did to Vicki can never be undone. But hopefully, they will keep him in prison. They'll keep him locked up like the vicious animal that he is. In fact, I hesitate to call him an animal because animals do what they do because that's their instinct.
Vicki Ross was a beautiful young girl. She had problems in her life, yes, but she was correcting them. She was starting over. She was starting a new life. And it was taken from her by Norman Weaggan. It's my job to find the Norman Weaggans of the world. But it's more than that to me. These people need to be in a cage, and I like to put them there. To keep them away from your daughter, and my daughter too.
On a cold winter night, a young mother vanishes into thin air.
Why would mom walk away from a little boy?
She didn't check in, didn't call the babysitter.
A frantic search fails to yield any clues.
I was angry because they kept telling me, well, maybe she met up with some guy.
But as Lieutenant Kenda digs deeper, he discovers a twisted tale of sex, lies, and deceit.
We don't know what happened, and that eats at me.
December 21st, 1991, 26-year-old Robin Bragg walks into the Colorado Springs Police Department. She is terrified and shaken. Her sister, 24-year-old Lorraine is missing.
Robin reported that Lorraine had been missing for a couple of days, which was quite unusual for her to be gone for a couple of days without contacting anybody.
Robin says that she and her family have contacted Lorraine's friends, but none of them have seen or heard from Lorraine in the past several days.
At points in her life, she had disappeared for a night or so, but she had usually always made contact with her mom or a sister because she had a child, and the family felt that without her making contact with her child was very unusual.
I heard from Lorraine at least every 2 days, if not every day. And so did her sister, Robin. So we knew something was wrong.
Robin tells police that her boyfriend dropped her sister off at a bar 2 nights ago, and no one has seen her since.
Well, the family was extremely concerned with her being missing because she had a very young child. They said she would not abandon. Their insistence is what pushed us to conduct further investigation into the matter. That report was subsequently forwarded to Major Crimes for further investigation.
The case file is passed along to the head of the Major Crimes Unit, Lieutenant Joe Kenda. Kenda's expertise will be critical in solving this case.
I'm reading this report involving this young lady, Lorraine Larabeau. Okay, she likes to go to bars, she likes to drink, she's with her friends, okay, so what? Then I get to the part about the child. The more I look into this, the more I don't know, the more I want to know. This has become the mystery. What happened to Lorraine?
The report goes on to say that Robin was hanging out at Lorraine's boyfriend's house. His name is Jerome Hardin. Robin's boyfriend, Anthony Phillip, was also there. Lorraine had dropped her son at a babysitter's house and has the night free. She wants to go out dancing at Bumpers, a local bar located just a few blocks away. However, nobody else wants to go.
Lorraine is annoyed with her boyfriend, Hardin, that he doesn't want to go to the bar, because that's where she's decided she wants to go. Robin kind of doesn't want to go either, because she has to work, and Anthony doesn't want to go, he has to work, and the only person that wants to go to this bar is our missing person.
Finally, Robin's boyfriend Anthony agrees to drive Lorraine over to the bar and drop her off.
Jerome Hardin was talking to Anthony Phillip about how upset he was about Lorraine going out to Bumper's Lounge that night. Something to the effect that if she goes out, basically we're done as a couple. Lorraine went anyway. Anthony went with her to Bumper's Lounge, and Jerome stayed home.
Robin says that was the last time she saw Lorraine.
She didn't check in, didn't call the babysitter, didn't pick up her son, and just disappeared.
So, of course, we waited, and we didn't hear from her. After a day, then we really started getting really scared. She would never leave her son. So we called and said that Lorraine was missing.
Veteran Detective Lieutenant Kenda doesn't waste any time.
I called in a bunch of my detectives. I said, all right, I have a missing persons report here, so let's do it. We need to find her. What happened to her? And more importantly, who made that happen?
Something that we always have to look at is what are the circumstances around it? What are the possibilities? You go from what's the most probable to what's the least probable. We were looking at the fact that she had run off with somebody as being the least probable. We were focusing on where she was last seen around the club and the people that were closest to her.
Police focus on the downtown area in Colorado Springs, where there are many bars and nightclubs.
They checked a number of the bars in the area, La Jazz Affair, Bumper's Lounge, which was the one where she had gone to that night. There were a few that she frequented.
Bumper's Bar is a popular night spot. They have live music. They draw big crowds. And it's filled with the young crowd that Lorraine represents. We now have a much bigger pool of suspects. Everyone who could have, might have, should have, or usually is in that bar on the night she disappears. We contact the patrons, the employees. They all know Lorraine. She's a regular. Anthony's a regular. Robin's a regular. Jerome Hardin is a regular. They know all these people. But because they're regulars, they can't be specific about what night they saw her in the bar. Was Lorraine in here the night she disappeared? I don't know. I think she was. Are you sure? Well, no. Because they see them all the time. So it's very difficult to get a specific memory of a date and time. Who else was in this bar that night? Well, all these people that are always in this bar, we think. So the bar is not helpful. Another thing that concerns me about her is she's little. She's 5'5" and she weighs 115 pounds. She couldn't put up much of a fight. She's out in the street. It's after 9 o'clock in the evening. What if she got abducted off the street? What happened to this girl? We don't know, and that eats at me.
But one thing Lieutenant Kenda does know is that in any missing person investigation, time is against them. If Lorraine isn't found soon, it's likely she won't ever be found alive.
Uh-oh. And I'm feeling it in my bones. Mommy's not coming back. Mommy's not coming home ever.
It's been a full week since the disappearance of 24-year-old Lorraine Larabeau. Nobody has seen or heard from her since. A nagging question in Lieutenant Kenda's mind is, did Lorraine leave town voluntarily?
One of the things I need to do in my own mind is I need to eliminate the fact that Lorraine is a willful missing person. So we got to do a background on Lorraine. What kind of person is she? What kind of mother is she? All the steps I need to dismiss her willful disappearance.
Lorraine works as a waitress at a local restaurant. She's a popular young girl with lots of friends.
Lorraine was a beautiful woman, a wonderful mother. I looked up to her in so many different ways, as a younger sister does. Her smile was so bright and so powerful.
She smiled a lot. She danced a lot. She always had fun with her life. And when she growed up, then she had a beautiful little baby boy. She was just the apple of my eye. There was always something very special about Lorraine.
With each passing day, the victim's family grows increasingly upset with the investigation.
I was angry because they kept telling me the same thing. Well, maybe she met up with some guy, maybe she went away for a week.
I understand their rage. I understand why they yell at me. Everybody yells at me.
I knew that my daughter would never do that because no one knows their children better than their mother.
I do what I think is reasonable given the resources I have to use. The family is just emotional. I understand that. They are wild. There's nothing I can do about that.
New Year's comes and goes with no sign of Lorraine. Her family becomes even more distraught.
I had a dream about her. I could see her laying somewhere with her hair blowing in the wind. And I would sit at night and I would hear the wind blow. And it was like she was calling me from afar. And I knew she was there.
Lorraine's family distributes over 1,000 flyers around town. Robin and her boyfriend Anthony join in the search, hoping to bring Lorraine home safe. Lieutenant Kenda orders the search to include the entire county. It's a formidable undertaking.
El Paso County is the size of Rhode Island, so it makes a search a daunting task. We use canines, search dogs. We get no results. Then the question becomes, okay, where else do you go? We need information. We need more of it. We need it now.
With no leads, Kenda turns back to the last known person to see Lorraine, Anthony Phillip.
Anthony tells us precisely the same story Robin did. They're all drinking, they're all having a good time, but Lorraine wants to go to the bar. No one else wants to go, and there's a minor dispute about it. Anthony says, just to settle things, he offers to give Lorraine a ride to the bar.
Anthony says he and Lorraine left with Robin's consent, but he also adds that Lorraine was angry.
They drive away from the apartments. Lorraine immediately confronts him. She's out of control. She's mad for no reason. She's drunk, starts screaming at him, punches him in the shoulder. He said, she's drunk and she's mouthy and she's yelling at me. I've had enough. Get out of my car and go to the bar.
Anthony tells detectives that he watched Lorraine walk off towards the bar and drove away. After dropping her off, Anthony says he ran a quick errand.
He goes and buys a pack of cigarettes at a liquor store, and then he goes back to the apartment. Anthony says he reports what happened. They all laugh because they know Lorraine. Lorraine's mad, she's had a few drinks. He dropped her off. His story is a perfect match to what Robin tells us. So you think, all right, is he lying? Probably not. Why would Robin lie? To cover up something involving her own sister. So this story is a believable story based on our limited knowledge at this point of the players.
But one of the players is about to add a twist. Robin calls Kenda with new information. Information she didn't share at first.
Robin Bragg comes back in, wants to talk to me about Jerome Hardin. She says they've been fighting. They've been fighting for a couple months. Lorraine likes him, but Robin doesn't think Jerome likes her back. She's suspicious of Hardin. What does that mean? But it's enough to make me concerned.
Robin says that after Anthony dropped Lorraine off, he returned to Jerome's apartment. Then, at about 11 p.m., she and Anthony went home. No one saw Jerome the rest of the night.
I thought Jerome had something to do with my sister. I really did. I couldn't understand why someone would hurt her.
The younger sister claims that Jerome told her if Lorraine is dead in a ditch somewhere, she had it coming. Whoa. Want to hook my attention? You just did.
In the course of an investigation, we will run the background of all those parties involved. And in Jerome's case, he did have prior criminal charges, dealt with weapons and harassment charges.
I'm reading his prior criminal history and I'm thinking, Jerome, you got bad habits. What if they relate to you wanting to break up with this girl, Lorraine, once and for all?
Jerome is a member of the military, but lives off base in an apartment complex. Detectives pay a visit, but he isn't home.
The neighbors think maybe he left, maybe he moved out. They're not sure. Why do you think he moved? Maybe he knows where she is and knows that she's not missing. She's just dead. And maybe he made her that way.
Kenda meets with the Criminal Investigation Unit of the Army and learns that Jerome has recently been deployed to Fort Irwin, California.
Jerome has been removed from his home by his work. And that was planned well before the disappearance of Lorraine. That part of the suspicion is removed. He does have to go. Although Jerome has a reason for moving out, it doesn't answer the question of where he was on the night that Lorraine disappeared. CID investigators confront Hardin in California, and they literally confront him. They say, hey, Jerome, you have this violent history. What'd you do, slap her around? Maybe a little too hard? Jerome absolutely denies any involvement. They hit him with the statement that if Lorraine was dead face down in a ditch, she had it coming. He denies having said that. He wanted to break up with her anyway. Her disappearance has solved that problem for him. That's his story.
Jerome's demeanor throughout this course of this investigation was detached. Is somebody really cold, or are they that way because they don't care about the circumstances? Cold people are really different than detached people. People who are cold are very capable of doing exactly what you think they did and looking you in the face and telling you they didn't do it.
Jerome's story is the same as Robin's story and Anthony's story. Jerome says after Robin and Anthony left, he went to bed. He did not go out. He did not talk to Lorraine. She did not call. She didn't come back. He had no further contact with her. Never saw her again. He's got a consistent story, but at that point, so what? The consistency ends when the witnesses leave. Anthony and Robin went home. So we still don't know where Jerome was. We know where he says he was.
Jerome claims he never left his apartment, but he can't prove it. And that makes him the prime suspect in Lorraine's disappearance. But for Lieutenant Kenda, the focus of this investigation is about to be radically altered.
A woman is out running with her dog, jogging through Sand Creek. The dog is out in front of her, not on a leash. and the dog becomes interested in something. She calls the dog, but the dog doesn't respond. She goes over to where the dog is. What are you doing? Then she sees a human body.
Just over 1 month after the disappearance of young mother Lorraine Laribeau, a jogger and her dog discover a dead body of a young female in a rural section of Colorado Springs, not far from Bumper's Bar.
It's fairly common to find human remains in these rural areas. Most of the time it's a suicide, and occasionally it's a murder. The Sand Creek area is a place where construction people dump things, and they're encouraged to do it by the city. It forms a free sort of retaining wall. Where this girl is found is between two very large pieces of cement. She's almost wedged between them. It has every appearance that she has fallen.
She was badly bruised, had been there for some period of time. It was kind of a difficult scene to be at. The thing that strikes you is you just hate to think of somebody left out there in the cold like that in that particular state.
The victim is found wearing only a shirt and bra, no pants or underwear, and no identification.
All of that clothing matches the description of what Lorraine was last seen wearing.
Certainly her state of undress at the time her body was found was a question. Was this a sexual assault turned into a murder?
Police bring the body up the embankment. It's a moment Lieutenant Kenda will never forget.
You see dead people, I do, and you have to come to grips with it. You try to focus on the process and not on the horrible memories. It's not that you don't want to forget, because you desperately do. You can't forget. It is burned into your brain with a laser knife. You're not ever going to forget. But if you think about that all the time, you'd be a blithering idiot. Accept it for what it is. Bad moments.
The coroner finds bruising inconsistent with a fall. It looks like she may have been pushed.
Injuries sustained in a fall are typically to one impact site wherever the body strikes the ground. In Lorraine's case, she had impact sites to both the sides of the head as well as to the face. When you have multiple impact sites, those injuries are far more typical of some trauma that occurred prior to the fall.
10 yards away from the body, we find a cigarette butt, just one. Have no idea if it's connected to this. We collect it anyway. We look at the cigarette butt, we look at the brand of cigarette that it is. I'm aware that Jerome Harden smokes. We check on that report as to his brand, and it doesn't match. We expand the search out from the body. About 300 yards up the creek bed are the lower clothing. Her pants, her panties, and her shoes. I look at those, aside from being exposed to the weather, they're not damaged, ripped, or torn. They have the appearance of having been willfully removed. If you're considering the possibility of sexual assault, that speaks against that. There's no force. She took her own clothing off. Somebody didn't force it from her.
And that means she may have known her killer.
You've got to wonder, how did these clothes get here? They didn't walk over here. It is extremely unlikely that she walked from here back and fell into the cement. I'm looking at her, I'm looking at where the clothing is, I'm looking at this cliffside, and I'm thinking, okay, car. There's a car. This is a remote area where kids go to make out, where people go to drink. There's nobody living around there close by. I can't think of another reasonable explanation, but I think that's a possible one. So I'm pretty convinced there's a car involved in this.
One of my girlfriends called me and she told me they just found a body on TV. And they're not saying who it is yet. When I looked at the TV, there was people bringing her body up like a little hill in a body bag. And of course, I didn't know for sure that it was Lorraine, but my thoughts went right away because they said that it was a girl in her early 20s. That's what they believed.
Two days later, autopsy results reveal additional clues about the victim's death.
The injuries are severe. She has a ruptured spleen. She has a ruptured liver. She has evidence of blunt force trauma to one side of her face as if she was punched. The rest of the fatal injuries consistent with a fall. All fatal, but consistent with a fall.
But what the autopsy can't tell is the victim's identity. Police suspect it may be Lorraine, but they need a positive ID.
Because of the fact that we were unable to locate any dental records, it became important and imperative, actually, that a facial identification be made by a family member. We talked with all of the family members, and Lorraine's mom agreed to be the person to come in to identify her.
Try to prepare her, you can't. You could be the most clever guy in the world. You're not going to prepare anybody for what they're about to see. But it has to be done. Jane screams. That's my baby. I didn't like that. I'm holding her shoulders to keep her upright because she's going to collapse.
Jane Heiser's worst fear is confirmed. The victim is her daughter, Lorraine Laribeau.
When I went to the morgue to see her, they wouldn't let me touch her. I wanted to just feel her hair. I just wanted to touch her. I just wanted to let her know that I was there. I wanted to hug her. And I wasn't allowed to do that. I couldn't even touch her. And that made it really hard.
The only way I recover from those moments is to think about, I'm going to find who did this. I'm going to put an end to this.
After the body of Lorraine Laribeau is identified, the investigation goes from missing person to homicide. Lieutenant Kenda's assessment of the evidence suggests that Lorraine and her killer may not have been strangers.
It's 2 miles from Bumpers. She didn't walk 2 miles from where she got dropped off over to here. She gets here in a car with somebody. Something goes wrong. It goes wrong in the car. It moves to outside the car. She's either falls or is pushed over this cliff by who she's with. And when this person leaves, they throw her clothing out of the car. That's just a working opinion of how this could have happened. Do I know that? No. I think that.
As the investigation progressed, it became pretty apparent to us that an unknown was not our suspect in this case. We were dealing with a known person, somebody known to Lorraine, somebody known to the family.
The next day, as Lorraine is laid to rest, detectives pay close attention to the people attending the funeral.
It's kind of almost an information gathering type thing, not where you're out asking questions, but you're looking to see who's there, who's not, who should be but didn't show up. You're looking for the reaction of individuals, whether it's consistent with what you've seen in other funeral services, whether or not they're involved or not. Sometimes somebody involved will go to the funeral and you get some strange reaction. So you're looking for those clues that might help further your sense of the investigation or of a suspect.
The family was there, as was Anthony Phillip.
Anthony was alone. He was withdrawn. Wasn't looking at anybody, and pretty much maintained that posture throughout the entire service.
But Jerome Hardin is still the #1 suspect. He can't account for his whereabouts the night of Lorraine's murder, and there's a close proximity between his apartment and the crime scene.
In any homicide, you always look to the people who are acquainted with the victim. So in this case, we had a boyfriend who was clearly a jealous type and clearly upset with Lorraine Larabeau for the fact of her lifestyle, which included going out at night and going to bars.
The autopsy estimates Lorraine's time of death as sometime on December 19th, the night she went missing from Jerome Hardin's apartment. But Jerome is adamant that he never saw Lorraine after she left his apartment. So who did?
Take all the if and what if and possibilities away. Whose car do we know she's in? Well, she's in Anthony Phillip's car. Now he says he dropped her off. What if he didn't? What if we're so interested in Jerome Hardin, we're not paying enough attention to Anthony? Let's get away from Mr. X for a minute and go back to Mr. Phillip, because he does have a car, and she was in it.
After the funeral, detectives re-question Anthony Phillip. He was the last person to see Lorraine alive.
So we bring Anthony in. Anthony, the family helper, who gets on the news with Mom to plead for the finding of Lorraine Larabeau. That guy.
It's hard enough when you're telling the truth to be able to relate it in the same way each time, but when you're lying, it's almost impossible to get all of the details to match very precisely.
In my world, that's called the first lie. What I'm looking for is the first lie. If you're inventing this story, I'm going to hear something that's changed. It may be subtle, but it's different.
Once again, Anthony tells police about the night he drove Lorraine over to the bar. But he forgets to mention one important thing.
I said, you know, you said in your first interview that Jerome was arguing with Lorraine. No, I didn't say that. The officer must have written it down wrong. Oh, really? We're in the business of writing it down right. If you lie to me, you don't make me angry, you insult me. Don't sit there and think that you're smarter than me, because you're not.
The inconsistencies in Anthony's story, however, are not enough to hold him, much less charge him.
There was no physical evidence recovered from Lorraine Larabeau's body that could lead us to any particular person, especially to someone who had good reason to be with her in the first place.
Lieutenant Kenda has no choice but to release Anthony. Police now have two solid suspects, Jerome Hardin and Anthony Phillip. But no proof either killed Lorraine.
Myself and my guys were kind of split down the middle. Some of us liked Hardin, some of us liked Anthony. At that point, I liked Hardin better.
There's no concrete evidence, but that doesn't mean Kenda can't do some digging. It's time to go back to the beginning.
We come back to the time element. The thing you have to have is the opportunity to commit the crime. A time frame where it's possible for you to do this.
Two of Kenda's detectives re-examine the timeline of Anthony Phillip's story, so they drive the route between the bar and Jerome's apartment. The entire drive takes the investigators only 17 minutes. According to multiple witnesses, Anthony Phillip was gone with Lorraine Laribeau for over an hour on the night she died.
Oh, Anthony, you son of a bitch. One thing I've learned over the years, it doesn't take long to kill somebody. And Anthony, you had plenty of time.
After single mother Lorraine Laribeau is found murdered, Lieutenant Kenda focuses his investigation on two different suspects. Anthony Phillip, who is the last person seen with the victim, and Jerome Hardin, the ex-boyfriend with a callous attitude.
I thought both guys could be guilty, but the 45-minute discrepancy in the timeline really pointed to Anthony. Catch is, timeline isn't hard evidence. I needed a confession, and the best way I knew to get that was to play them off against each other. Rattle their cages and see if somebody will tell me the truth.
Police ask both men to submit to a polygraph test at the station. Jerome goes first.
The boyfriend, Jerome Hardin, was a concern, of course, because there did appear to be a level of animosity, at least from him, toward her. Could Jerome have gone to find her at Bumper's Lounge and taken her home and gotten in a fight?
We give him a polygraph examination about the death of Lorraine. His story is very consistent. I don't know where she is. I don't care where she is, but I don't know where she is. After I look at him and watch him, he's been truthful. So I'm starting to lean away from him. Not completely yet, but leaning.
In Jerome's case, the polygraphist felt that he was being honest and that had nothing to do with the death of Lorraine. But you're not closed-minded to any portion of the investigation. Until you have the evidence that actually supports who did it, everybody could be considered a suspect.
And Anthony is just as good a suspect as Jerome, perhaps even better. Kenda tells Jerome to wait while Anthony takes his polygraph test.
Anthony took the polygraph and absolutely bombed it. One of the questions, are you responsible for the death of Lorraine Laribeau? And it peeks off the paper, so total failure of the polygraph.
While the polygraph results suggest Anthony may be the killer, it won't hold up in court. So Kenda asks both suspects if they will submit biological samples. Kenda's playing a game of psychological warfare.
If you are guilty of a crime, your worst enemy is your mind. And I know that. And I am going to give you a reason to consider what I might do next. So you play a game. You say, okay, I want biological samples from you. Make them wonder why I want that. I don't need it. I can't even use it. But they don't know that. So make them wonder.
The final step is to bring Anthony and Jerome together in the same room.
And I accuse them both, sitting next to each other. One of you guys killed Lorraine. One of you did. Hardin remains consistent. He is yelling at me, how dare you say that, you son of a bitch, I didn't kill anybody. What is Anthony doing? Anthony's not saying a word, because Anthony's starting to come undone. And that's what I want. I want Anthony to come undone. Anthony knows he's next, and I want him to know that. So I finally look at Anthony and I say, Anthony, you know the worst of this is I believe Jerome. In fact, I believe you, Jerome, so much, I'm going to tell you to leave and go home. Anthony starts to get up. Where are you going, Anthony? Well, I thought we were done. Oh, no. No, we're not done. Jerome is done. Sit down.
Kenda's wild card is Anthony's timeline, and the time has come to play it.
I said, you know the problem here, Anthony? Inconsistencies. You say one thing, then you say something else. Then you can't explain where you were for 45 minutes. You left at 9. You don't come back until 10. You drop her off. You buy a pack of cigarettes. There's no crowd. You don't have to stand in line. You come back to the apartments. That's what you told me. Well, that's what happened. Well, see, Anthony, I have this problem. My detectives drove that several times. You know how long it took them to do that? An average of 17 minutes, 10 different times. You only do it once, and it takes you an hour. Odd, isn't it? Don't you find that to be odd? And now Anthony's starting to scramble. He breaks eye contact with me. He's starting to get really upset. His eyes are filling with tears. And he says, how much trouble am I in? Well, my, Anthony. I am talking to the right guy. Well, Anthony, you're in trouble. Because Lorraine is dead, and you made her that way. So you better convince me what happened, and don't lie to me. And Anthony blurts it out.
Anthony Phillip cracks under the pressure and says he never dropped Lorraine off at the bar that night. Instead, they drove to a remote location just to talk, but Lorraine had other ideas.
Anthony says that Lorraine comes on to him, starts taking her clothes off, she's drunk, she wants to make love to him. Anthony says, I can't do that, I'm with Robin, her sister. Right. She gets angry that he doesn't want to make love to her and is standing there yelling at him. Anthony says, you got to stop this, put your clothes on, get back in the car. He says she punches him. So Anthony says, I punched her back. I hit her in the face. The next thing I know, she fell over the edge. And did you look at her, Anthony? I looked. She looked dead. She looked dead. Did you do that? I had her clothes. You know, I just threw them. I drove away. And then you became part of the search for Lorraine? Well, I didn't know what else to do. You could have told the truth, Anthony. Did you consider that? You're under arrest for manslaughter. That case kind of served as a reminder for me. You got to stay with it. Even when you are frustrated, even when you are out of ideas, even when you have to start over. Because that's what you do. We're not in the business of giving up. And that case brought it home.
Anthony Phillips stands trial and is eventually convicted of manslaughter. He receives the maximum penalty for that crime, 6 years.
In the end, here he got 6 years for what he did. And I got a life sentence. I have to live with what he did to my baby for the rest of my life.
If we had anything, we knew we could count on him. But he broke that. It takes an animal to do what he did. To stand by us, to be in our house, to call my mom, to eat off of her dinner table, to go hang up flyers of my missing sister when he knows that he's the one who killed her. And he knows where she was at this whole time.
People do incredible things. I used to tell my guys, don't ever get caught in the trap of thinking nobody would do this. Don't think that when you're talking to them that they couldn't have done this, because maybe they did, and maybe they'll do it again.